All right, Alexander Burgos.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Burgos.
100%.
Burgos.
Oh,
There we go.
Burgos in
I can't
Spanish.
do that. But thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
So where do we even start? Since this is a podcast, people can't really see the gift that you brought me today.
Yeah.
Can you describe it to our listeners?
Yeah, essentially it's the logo for the new podcast called Podcast Row. And I just noticed that this is something new, something that hasn't been pretty much done or is mainstream. So I appreciate the fact that I probably would never have this opportunity in my entire life.
Oh, that's not true. This is only the first of many.
Oh,
You can't think like that. Yeah, man. What do you mean? You think you're going to just go back into your cave and not be out there anymore?
I guess not.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like once a week?
Yeah.
You live in Queens?
Long Island.
Long Island.
Park, yeah.
Okay. What's your address now? For the record, my podcast, it's also infused with some humor. So it's a little more chill than some of the other podcasts. And I usually have a comedian on as a guest co-host.
I gotcha.
But not today. So I'm going to try to act as both
I gotcha.
main host and comedian. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. You're in New York. I mean, there's so much opportunity here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm surprised this is your first type of exposure like this, being around just like-minded entrepreneurs and podcast row. But I really hope this is the first of many because there's so many people out there you can meet and network with and help you grow and grow your business.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why I made that for you, because I really appreciate this opportunity. I feel like honestly, if this didn't happen, it would be hard for me to get some type of exposure like this. I mean, I could be on other podcasts, but not like to this scale. You know what I mean? With the type of people and the followers and things like that.
Well, this is the second podcast row that we're doing, and we're looking to build out that community.
Yeah.
That doesn't only start and end at the event. Like we're planning many events. We have Stand Up New York, the club, which is right below us, and we have a stage. So we're planning talks and educational events and similar type of events, which you'll be part of. So there's a lot more people you'll meet.
Yeah, that's.
There's gonna be 100 more people that you'll meet than today.
Yeah. So, like I said before, that's why I appreciate this, because the amount of exposure, the types of people I'm gonna meet, I need to meet these people. You know what I mean? And this brings that avenue where now I have a running chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is the spark of many things.
Yeah.
But you said you spoke to James Altucher earlier.
Yes.
And what advice did he give you, if any?
Basically, he was telling me to do like a GoFundMe type of thing for my Exotic Wood Hearts. So I was telling him the story about basically how I came up with the idea, and my story and background. To start with, it as an adolescent, it dealt with like a lot of abuse in my family, and my mother and my father, they both have a mental illness. My father having the worst case of it, so he suffers from schizophrenia, and a lot of times during my youth, I didn't have a mind of my own. You know what I mean? And basically, growing up in that environment, it kind of subdued the way I really felt. And being that my father has schizophrenia, I didn't understand it as a child. So, like a boy, he always wants to look up to his father. You know what I mean? And I always did. I always looked up to my dad, always wanted to be around him and things like that. But there wasn't anybody around us that was specifically like being reasonable. So with that sickness is like a lot of unreasonableness, you know what I mean, as far as like the love and the nurturing and things like that. So I didn't grow up.
Did you get any of it from your mom?
Yeah. So my mom, she dealt with what I call long suffering. So she suffered for a long time in abusive relationship. And not to say I have a great relationship now with my father and my mom. My dad slowed down. I think with age, that's what made it a lot better. But when he had a lot of energy, it was nuts. And my mom took the brunt of that stuff. She really was long suffering, and she went through that. She went through all that pain and stuff for us boys. So I have two brothers, and growing up, I would take
Your
care.
dad's Puerto Rican?
He's Puerto
right?
Rican, yeah. And not for nothing, my dad, it's a sickness that is not really understood. You know what I mean? And I lived with somebody with schizophrenia. And a lot of people don't know this, but there's a phenomenon where if you stay with somebody with schizophrenia for a long time and you have some sort of stress, altercations and things like that, whatever, some abuse, and you stay in that predicament, it's likely that you can also get schizophrenia, even if you had no history of it and stuff like that.
Wow.
So it's something that I think I heard on the Joe Rogan podcast. I forgot who he was talking to, but it's something I learned from that podcast, and then I researched it a little bit. But my father, with his schizophrenia, I don't blame him. It took me a long time to recognize that, you know what I mean? And realize, I'm not like him. I don't have schizophrenia. I'm reasonable. I can be reasonable. I don't have to act violent. I don't, I can be me. Somehow I gotta understand who I am.
Was that, you just had a general lack of self-awareness, or did you have people that help you think that way?
Yeah, so eventually, I got married and things like that. That's what got me to the point where I became more mature and I started understanding a lot of things. So a little background is that my father is a Jehovah's Witness and stuff. It's not a religion I believe in, and they're good people and things like that, but something I don't believe in. And with his schizophrenia, he takes things to an extreme. So it wasn't healthy. So basically, I grew up very naive through that religion and stuff like that. When I met my wife at the time, I was a Jehovah's Witness, and because I had sex or fornicated before marriage and stuff, they did what is called disfellowshipping. So because
what does that mean?
Basically, because you went against God's laws or whatever they preach, now they disassociate you from the congregation.
Really?
So people that I knew for many years, from when I was a teenager growing up into a young adulthood, they stopped talking to me.
So they excommunicate you?
Yeah.
Is there a way to
you have to
get
go
back in
and study and things like that? But what if you don't believe it? Not,
Right, right.
And
so you were turned off by what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, they would turn to the scripture. I didn't believe it. They would try to reason with the scriptures. That's what they do. But I was in love. That's it. You know what I mean? I was in love, and I was going through these. You can't live a perfect life. Sometimes I think, as far as religion, they go through these scriptures and they're like, if you don't do this, you don't live a perfect life. That's not what it's about. You got to live an imperfect life to learn and become a stronger person. That's what I think. But going forward, what really got me into these exotic wood hearts, and I'm going to explain further a little bit about that, is basically when my ex-wife died. So eventually I got a divorce, right? I was very naive. I didn't know how to be a husband or even a father for that matter. I didn't have a mind of my own.
Did you have siblings growing up?
Yeah, I had two brothers.
Okay. Older, younger?
Younger. They're both younger.
Okay. So you couldn't, if you would have had older brothers, maybe they would have
I did have an older brother from my father's side, but he was never around us, number one, and then he had his mother and stuff like that. And
right.
He got into his own little problems,
right.
Stuff, but he was never there as somebody like I should follow him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But although he's cool now, he's doing very well and things like that. But when my ex-wife, well, I went through a divorce, I got custody of my kids and stuff like that, and my ex-wife, she's very loving or whatever, but at that time she had things that she had to work through to become a better mother and things like that. And I believe that the children should be with their mother no matter
Mhm.
what, right? But unfortunately, she wasn't doing the right things. It
Mhm.
wasn't healthy for the kids, so
Mhm.
I ended up taking care of them.
Mhm.
But I didn't do any restrictions like how people are like, oh, you only can see the kids at this
Right.
time.
Is there 2 kids?
Yeah, I have 2 boys.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Alex and Aaron, what's up? Love you
Mhm.
guys. So basically, so it's basically she's trying to get back on her feet and things
Mhm.
like that. I didn't do any restrictions like the courts would do. I try
Mhm.
to leave it open. There's no restrictions at all.
Mhm.
There's no rules. You come whenever you want to see the boys and things like that. But unfortunately, like in 2016,
Mhm.
she passed away from kidney failure.
Mm.
So that really affected me. I went to the funeral,
Mhm.
and I didn't say much. I just said that their mom. There's times when I should have listened to her and things
Mhm.
like that. I love her, and she's a very loving mother. That's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And I think that was very impactful for the 2 boys.
Mhm.
But they struggle still. They think about it.
Mhm.
A lot of
How
times,
old are the boys?
17 and 15.
Mhm.
So that affected me. That got me into a depressed state,
Mhm.
and also the type of relationships I was having wasn't the fault of the people that I was with. It was
Mhm.
more so that I had to look within myself and realize it's my fault. Like
Mhm.
I'm not changing the way I think,
Mhm.
and a lot of what I was thinking was based off of like a new type of thinking, like Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
Jim Rohn, Les Brown. Lisa Nichols, stuff like that, like people that are very motivational,
Mhm,
and they
mhm.
help you to think within your own mind. What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Kind of like a clarity. And one day I went to Florida to, for vacation and things like that. I was depressed at the
Mhm.
time. My niece, she wanted me to help, basically, to help her with like a science project, a volcano, a rocket,
Mhm,
and stuff
mhm.
like that. So as I was helping her, I realized how happy I started becoming, and how much I love my niece, and
Mhm.
it just got me out of depression. She kept me busy,
Mhm.
and then I realized like I don't know anything about depression. I need to educate myself, and there's something that I may be suffering from,
Mhm.
and I haven't diagnosed myself, but I realized like if I know this, then I must be all right. There's a way I can change this. What is it? What is depression and stuff? And Tony Robbins says like, it's what you tell yourself
Mhm.
at the end of the day. What are you telling yourself? A lot of times, what you tell yourself is what's causing that depression.
Mhm.
And
Like the story in your head.
the story in your head. What are you telling yourself? And also, what are you listening to? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Jim Rohn says, be careful what you put in the mental factory of your mind. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And these are the stuff I started listening to
Mhm.
that really changed the way I think. And
So how did you change the way you think? How did you recognized that you were telling a story?
yeah, basically through my work.
Mhm.
So I always had these ideas, right? And to show appreciation for my niece, I actually carved out exotic wood heart, which was made out of
Mhm.
purple heart, which is
Mhm.
the natural color of the wood from nature, right? So I carved it out, I sent it to my niece, and my brother got it, and he was ecstatic. He couldn't
Mhm.
believe it. He was like, "You made this, Alex?" Now he knows I'm a woodworker, but he doesn't know the extent of my artistry, so that was
Mhm.
the first time.
Mhm.
Super appreciative. He couldn't believe I did it, and that just made me feel good.
Mhm,
And it
mhm.
made me feel like, wow, I can impact somebody
Mhm.
at that point. So from that point on, I started to really focus on my depression, really focus on like what I can do to better myself and things like that,
Mhm.
and how I can, mass produce these hearts.
Mhm.
So then I got a CNC machine. Now, that was another dream of mine in the Carpenters Union. And for some reason, they have a school, but for some reason, and I put my list on there, and they weren't able to teach me. So I took it upon myself to buy my own machine.
Mhm.
Now, CNC machine is called computer numeric control. Basically, it's like a 3D printer. The only difference is instead of building up the material to create the 3D object, it carves away the material
Mhm.
instead. So you have a
Got
solid
it.
block of material and
Got
it carves
it.
it away and stuff. So, and pretty much that's how I did.
So it's
get
just
signed.
the opposite of a 3D machine.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how old were you when you first got into this?
I was young. I was a teenager, so I was always into wood and stuff like that. High school, I got an endorsed diploma for cabinetry, carpentry,
Mhm.
and then I went to college, SUNY Morrisville, studied wood technology.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, that's when I got married and things started, I wouldn't say going downhill, but there's a lot of things I needed to learn and grow from.
Mm-hmm.
But these hearts in general, like because my parents have mental illnesses
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Can I take one
Yeah,
off here?
absolutely.
I see one. Mm-hmm. So this is made out of wood.
Yeah, it's made out of wood. And it's
Mhm.
the natural color. The only one that's
Oh, wow.
not natural is the blue one.
Right.
And I decided to help people that couldn't help themselves
Mhm.
with the proceeds, a portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Can you carve like someone's initials in it, or?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Eventually, I want to do something like that where it's a custom piece where I could carve initials and things like that
Mhm.
into it.
Wow. So this is carved out of like a block of wood.
That one's
No?
red heart. That's the actual color. So the
Okay.
actual color, you just say the color and then heart afterwards, and that's the actual name of the wood.
Okay. But you use that machine that you
I use that
described
machine,
before.
yeah.
Wow. How do you get that shape out of it?
So I have a 3D program. It's called the Inspire program,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what creates the three-dimensional shape of it.
Mhm.
And it's new. The reason why I know it's new to the market is because when I field tested it. So I went to
Mhm.
like fairs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing people say is they love it, right? The size and everything, the shape. But they're like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
So it opens conversation right away.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell them, like, it's from nature, it comes from South America, it comes from South Africa,
Mhm.
like ebony, they just like the story. And the fact that I donate it, and then when
Mhm.
they hear the story of my niece and things like that, they have a immediate connection to it.
Mm-hmm. And besides these hearts,
Yeah.
what are your favorite things to make?
Right now, actually, because of my extensive background, like I have a lot of imagination. So right now, I carve something on a lathe that's basically like a morph of an image that people would normally just, in what do you call it, like in a Catholic church or whatever, the
Mhm.
images that they worship or whatever. So I noticed that all these images, they're pretty much the same. People worship, they believe in these images, it means something to them, right? But they're all pretty much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving people hope, motivation, things like that. So I kind of carved this thing, it's morphed. It's the Buddha on top, then the all-seeing eye that's kind of like morphed into the cross, where Jesus' head is, that's kind of like the pupil, and then towards the bottom is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I'm gonna cut it in half, and it on the back of it, because it's rounded, it's gonna look like a stretched 3D
Mm-hmm.
type of image. And then in the front, I'm gonna also carve like a 3D image of Jesus on
Mhm.
the front and things
Mhm.
like that, and the Buddha, stuff like that.
Where can people buy these products now?
Oh yeah, basically right now what I'm selling, so people don't get confused, is basically these hearts. BusyCarpentry.com is gonna send you into the Etsy account that I have.
The what? The Etsy account?
Yeah, the Etsy
Yeah.
account.
Okay.
And also, what do you call it? Busy Carpenter Bee, across social media, so like
Mhm.
Instagram,
Mhm.
Facebook, YouTube, things like that, where they can see my work. I also do carvings like this, like the one I gave you,
Mm-hmm.
and I do custom woodworking in general. So,
How do you have ideas how to market this? How are you gonna get people to learn about what you do?
So basically, right now I'm going to these different hospitals, and
Mhm.
recently I went to a small business event where her name is Natasha Moore,
Mm-hmm.
and she's part of the American Cancer Society. So
Mhm.
the blue one is for St. Mary's Hospital for Children,
Mm-hmm.
and half of those proceeds go to St. Mary's. And then she asked me if I can make a specific one for the cancer patients,
Mhm.
which is pink, and
Mhm.
I did.
That's great.
So August 13th, I'm gonna go out and and pretty much that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna create my own content and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure being here, I can learn more ways to get more exposure and things like
Does
that.
Etsy provide marketing tools to amplify or promote the store?
They do, but like everything else, you got to pay for it
Right.
and stuff. And I really want to capture the people that is part of my community. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Instead of sending it to Etsy.
Okay.
And just like everybody else now, they want their own followers and things, people that just basically
Mhm.
appreciate them and appreciate what they're doing.
Okay. What do you want your kids to do? Like, how do you guide them? Like, do they have, like, what are their career aspirations? Do you encourage them to go into a certain field?
Well, I always tell them they can be anything that they want to, but they have to put a lot of work and effort into it.
Mm-hmm.
But right now,
So you're not telling them to be a doctor or...
as a matter of fact, I tell them you don't need to go to college,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to educate yourself. So if educating yourself means you need to go to college to further whatever it is you want to do, then
Mhm.
you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as college, I'm like, why would I get myself into debt, or
Mhm.
they get themselves into debt now when there's, Google, you know what I mean? There's like unlimited information now, and you can learn
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
I literally learned how to use the CNC machine
Mm-hmm.
through YouTube, like in Google
Right.
myself. I didn't go through any training. I trained myself through YouTube and Google.
Do you enjoy the whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is something that I dreamed about doing,
Mhm.
and I'm just basically fulfilling my dream. Really, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going for it, and I'm happy because I have a mind of my own.
Mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
trying to be somebody that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with my background, it's super confusing when you come from abusive household and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, like, people that don't necessarily come from that type of background, they still don't have a mind of their own
Mhm.
a lot of times because they see social media and they're like, I gotta be like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I listened to somebody by the name of what is his name? Earl Nightingale.
Mm-hmm.
He says people are just following the followers,
Mhm.
basically. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yep.
And I'd like to get as close as possible as to who I am, like really listen to me
Mhm,
and
mhm.
my subconscious and stuff like that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think that's important for everyone.
And just mention again where people can find you online. Speaking of followers,
Yeah, absolutely.
but everyone should follow you.
Basically, Busy Carpenter Bee across all the platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also I got busycarpenterbee.com. And I do have a link, which hopefully I'll be able to share here on Podcast Row, where I have a, kind of like a funnel where I'm selling these hearts also, and
Mhm.
it tells my story and everything there as well.
Awesome. It was great chatting with you, Alexander.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And have a great rest of your day.